Sir, your credit card has been declined for the third time in a row.
Please, can you try it one more time?
It got declined again.
Please just return the baby food. I'll find another way.
Dad, is baby Dallas gonna go to bed hungry again tonight?
Don't worry, baby. Daddy will figure something out somehow.
Excuse me, sir, you don't have to return the formula. I'll pay for it.
No, I can't accept your charity.
It's not charity. Don't call it that. Let's call it refusing to let this baby go hungry. Ring it up on my card, please. Of course.
The card was declined 3 times. The cashier said it again, slower, like maybe he didn't understand English. He understood. He just didn't have $34. Behind him, a woman in a suit worth more than his rent said one sentence that would end his old life completely. Put it on mine. He didn't know her name yet. He didn't know that by morning, everything he thought he knew about rich people and about himself would be wrong. Maddox Ryel had walked into the store to buy diapers he couldn't afford. He walked out with a stranger's phone number, a bag of groceries he didn't pay for, and a decision forming in his chest that scared him more than being broke ever had. But that came later. First, the store. First, the shame. He stood at register 4 with his son on his hip and his daughter gripping his belt loop like she was afraid the floor might open up. Baby Dallas was 4 months old and crying the specific cry that meant hungry, not tired, not wet, hungry. Maddox knew the difference now. He'd learned a lot of things in 6 months he never wanted to learn. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Somewhere near the back, a stock boy dropped a crate of cans, and everyone flinched except Maddox. He'd stopped flinching at loud noises weeks ago, back when loud noises stopped being the scariest part of his day. His wallet held $9 in cash and a debit card that lied every time he swiped it. "It still ain't going through, man," the cashier said, not unkindly. "Just tired. Try it once more." Maddox's voice cracked on more. He hated that it cracked. His daughter, Renley, for years old, tugged his jeans. "Daddy, is Dallas gonna be hungry again?" Again. That word did something to him. Because yes. Again. Like last night. Like the night before. "Daddy's gonna figure it out, baby." He didn't believe it when he said it. He was already reaching for the formula can, already rehearsing the sentence. "I need to return this. I'm sorry, I miscalculated," when a voice behind him cut clean through the noise of the store. "I've got it. Ring it up on my card." He turned around ready to argue, and froze. Bianca Castellan didn't belong in a gas station grocery store at 9 p.m. on a Wednesday. Everyone in the building could feel it. The way her coat alone probably cost more than the building's monthly lease. She was 29. She ran a logistics empire her father built, and she'd tripled, and every business magazine in the country had already decided who she was. Cold, ruthless, unreachable. The tabloids had a nickname for her. The Ice Wire. She'd stopped reading them a year ago, around the time her fiancé disappeared with $400,000 of her money and a story about how he'd always found her exhausting to love. She hadn't cried. She'd fired her whole executive assistant team instead, changed her locks, and told herself that was closure. Tonight she was in this store because her penthouse had started to feel like a museum after visiting hours. Beautiful, silent, nobody allowed to touch anything, including her. She'd driven past 3 restaurants and a gym before she ended up here, in a gas station grocery aisle at 9 at night, buying wine she didn't want and a salad she wouldn't finish, just to be somewhere that had other human beings breathing in it. She saw the man at the register before she registered why she was staring. The trembling hand. The daughter gripping his jeans. The way he held that baby like the baby was the only stable thing left in his world. Something in her chest did something she didn't authorize. "I don't accept charity," Maddox said, straightening. Pride was the only currency he had left, and he wasn't giving that up too. "Then don't call it charity," Bianca said. "Call it one human being who refuses to watch a baby go hungry." The cashier, an older woman named Pat who'd seen every version of this exact moment, just looked at Maddox and said, "Let her help, son. Ain't no shame in it." Dallas cried louder. That decided it. Here's what nobody in that store knew. Maddox Ryel used to run a full warehouse floor. 12 people under him. A house. A wife. Then the warehouse closed. Then his wife, Peyton, said the sentence that ended their marriage. "I didn't sign up to be poor," and walked out 4 days after Dallas was born, leaving a note and not much else. 6 months later, he was sleeping with his kids in the shell of an unfinished apartment complex. The kind with no windows, no doors, just concrete bones and a security guard who looked the other way. Every morning he woke before the kids, so they wouldn't see him check his phone for job listings that never called back. Every night he told Renley a made-up story about a castle, so she wouldn't notice the wind coming through where a wall should be. He had gotten good at performing calm. He had not gotten good at feeling it. Nobody in that store knew that either. Not yet. Bianca paid for the formula. Then 3 more cans. Then bread, milk, bananas. She watched him place each item on the belt like he was confessing something, and every item made her chest tighter. Renley tugged Bianca's coat sleeve. "Are you a helper?" Bianca crouched down, ignoring $400 of fabric touching a gas station floor. "I'm trying to be. That's my daddy, Maddox. And my brother, Dallas. He cries a lot 'cause he's hungry." Maddox looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him. Renley, don't bother the lady. "She's not bothering me," Bianca said, and meant it more than she'd meant anything in a year. She learned his name in the parking lot. He learned hers. Neither of them said the thing both of them were already thinking. "This isn't over yet. Let me drive you home," Bianca said, nodding at the bus stop he was walking toward with 2 kids and 4 grocery bags. "I've taken enough tonight. You have a newborn and a 4-year-old, and it's 9 at night. Please." He looked at his daughter's drooping eyes. He nodded once. That nod cost him something. The drive started easy. Then the roads changed. Streetlights got sparser. Pavement turned to gravel, then dirt. Bianca's SUV, built for smooth city driving, rocked over potholes she didn't know existed 20 minutes from her own building. "Turn here," Maddox said quietly, pointing at what looked like nothing. Darkness. A field. Bianca turned. Her headlights swept across a structure that made her stomach drop. No walls. No windows. Just concrete pillars holding up an unfinished roof. Weeds crawling up through a bare floor. "You live here. The security guard lets us use one of the rooms. Keeps the rain off." Maddox said it fast, like ripping off a bandage. Already opening his door. Already reaching for his sleeping daughter, like this was routine. Like this was fine. It was not fine. Bianca sat frozen behind the wheel for exactly 2 seconds. Then she threw her door open. "Get back in the car. Miss Castellan, please, this area isn't. Get back in the car. All of you. I can't keep taking from you. You're not taking anything." Her voice shook in a way it hadn't shaken in years. Not even when her fiancé's lawyer called to tell her about the missing $400,000. "You're letting me do the one thing that hasn't felt fake in 12 months. Put the bags back in the trunk, Maddox. You are not sleeping in a building with no doors tonight." He looked at his son, at his daughter, half asleep against his shoulder. His pride lost the fight it was never going to win. He put the bags back in the trunk. The gates to Bianca's estate swung open automatically, and Maddox felt something close to panic. This wasn't charity anymore. This was a different universe, and he didn't have a passport for it. The driveway alone was longer than the entire street he grew up on. Motion sensor lights clicked on one by one as the car passed, like the house itself was watching them arrive and deciding whether to let them in. Her housekeeper, Denise, opened the front door and stopped mid-greeting, staring at the ragged man and 2 sleepy kids behind her billionaire boss like she'd walked into the wrong house. "Denise, hot water for a bottle, and run a bath in the east guest room. We have company." "Right away, ma'am." Denise recovered fast. A woman who had clearly learned not to ask her employer questions, and reach for the grocery bags before Maddox could protest. "Come on in, sweetheart," she said to Renley, who was staring up at the chandelier like it might be made of stars. 2 hours later, the house that usually echoed with silence was full of sound. A baby finally fed and quiet. A 4-year-old's sleepy giggle, water running, plates clinking. Bianca stood in the kitchen doorway and watched Maddox feed his daughter first, make sure she was full, and only then eat what was left. She'd seen 100 men perform generosity for cameras and investors. She had never seen a man do it for an audience of nobody. "You lost someone," Maddox said quietly, once the kids were down. Not a question. Bianca's jaw tightened. "Fiancé. He loved my bank account more than he loved me. Cleaned out 400 grand and told our friends I was exhausting. I'm sorry. Don't be. It's not your problem. Your problem is keeping 2 kids fed, and that I can actually fix." Her voice cracked on the last word, surprising her. You already wanted a family, Maddox said, watching her too closely. That's why this hurts you so much to look at. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. 3 weeks later, everything Bianca thought she understood collapsed. The 3 weeks before that had been the strangest of her life. Not because anything dramatic happened, but because nothing did. Maddox had gotten temp work at a warehouse across town, coming home smelling like cardboard and sweat, and every evening Renley ran to the door before he even got his shoes off. Bianca started leaving the office by 6 instead of 9. She learned that Dallas liked being bounced, not rocked. She learned that Maddox made terrible coffee and never let her tell him so. She hadn't laughed like this in years. She'd almost forgotten laughing was a thing her body still knew how to do. Then it started. Denise had put it on speaker by accident while cleaning, and Bianca, walking past the kitchen, caught 4 words that stopped her cold. She doesn't know yet. Maddox's voice. Low. Careful. Talking to someone. Bianca stood in the hallway, back against the wall, and listened to a conversation that rewired everything. Her pulse was suddenly loud in her own ears, louder than the words themselves. I told you I'd call once I had access to the house, Maddox said. She trusts me now. Give me 2 more weeks. Bianca's stomach turned to ice. No, I'm not doing anything to her directly. I just need to know where she keeps the merger documents. Peyton, I told you, I'm not doing this for the money. Peyton, his ex-wife, the one who left. Bianca didn't wait to hear the rest. She walked into her own office, closed the door, and sat in the dark for 11 minutes without moving. Every coincidence reorganized itself into a plan. The store, the declined card, the kids conveniently tugging her heart exactly where it was already cracked open. Was any of it real? She thought of her fiancé's lawyer on the phone 18 months ago. He's gone, Miss Castellan. So is the money. History wasn't repeating. It had never left. She didn't confront him that night. She watched him instead. Feed Dallas, help Renley with her letters, fall asleep on the couch with his daughter still in his arms, and hated that none of it looked like a lie. She replayed the 4 words on a loop until they stopped sounding like anything at all, just noise wearing the shape of betrayal. 2 days later, she asked him straight. No warning, no softness. Who's Peyton to you now? Maddox went pale. The color drained out of his face so fast Bianca almost regretted asking before he'd even answered. My ex-wife. What? I heard you on the phone. She doesn't know yet. Give me 2 more weeks. The merger documents. Bianca's voice was flat, the boardroom voice, the one that had ended careers. Tell me the truth or leave tonight. Silence. The kind that confirms the worst before words do. Then Maddox said, quiet and wrecked. She found me 2 weeks ago. Said she wanted to see the kids. Then she said if I didn't get her details on your company, where you keep files, your schedule, anything, she'd go to a tabloid and say I only took you home to set you up. She said she'd tell them I was working with her from the start, that she'd make it look like I planned the whole thing from that grocery store. He rubbed a hand over his face like he was trying to erase the last 2 weeks entirely. I've been sick over it. Every time I looked at you I felt like a fraud, even though I never did what she wanted. Are you telling me you didn't? I'm telling you I said no. I told her no, Bianca. I've been trying to figure out how to warn you without you thinking exactly what you're thinking right now. It should have been a relief. It wasn't. Trust, once cracked, doesn't reset just because the explanation sounds true. Bianca had believed a good explanation before. She'd believed a ring on her finger before. Get the kids, she said. You need to go. He didn't argue. That was the part that broke her a little. He packed the diaper bag in silence, dressed his sleeping son without a word, gathered the few things that had started to feel permanent in a house that was never his, and at the door he turned around one last time. I'm not going to defend myself anymore tonight, he said. You don't owe me your trust. You never did. But I want you to know, I chose no. Every single time she asked, I chose no. Even when I had nothing, and she was offering me a way to have something again. I chose you and the kids, not finding out I'd become a person who'd do that to you. He walked out into the dark with his children, and the gate closed behind him, and the house went silent in the old way again. The museum silence, the one Bianca thought she'd finally escaped. She stood in the foyer for a long time. Then she picked up her phone and called her head of security. Before she dialed, she caught herself looking at the coat hooks by the door. Renly's tiny pink jacket wasn't hanging there anymore. Neither was the small step stool Maddox had built out of scrap would so his daughter could reach the sink. 2 hours of missing objects, and the house was already forgetting them. She hated how fast it happened. I need everything on a woman named Peyton. Last name unknown. Connected to a man named Maddox Ryel. What her investigator found, 40 hours later, rewrote the story completely. Peyton hadn't left Maddox because of poverty. She'd left because she'd been having an affair with a man who turned out to be a con artist. The same kind of man, running the same kind of play, that had taken Bianca's $400,000 18 months earlier. Same fake name pattern. Same financial fraud signature her security team had flagged in her ex-fiancé's case and never closed. The file had photographs. Bank transfers routed through 3 shell accounts. A name Bianca almost recognized. An alias her ex-fiancé had used once, years ago, before he changed it and came after her instead. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a network, and it had circled back around to her twice. Peyton hadn't come back for her kids. She'd come back because her new partner needed a way into a billionaire's house, and she remembered exactly who her ex-husband had gone home with 3 weeks ago. Maddox wasn't the trap. He was the target too. Bianca sat with the file open on her lap at 2 a.m., hands cold, and understood with total clarity that the only person in this entire story who had never once lied to her was the man she'd just thrown out into the dark with 2 children and nowhere to go. She thought about the way he'd said "I chose no" every single time right before he walked out. She'd heard it as a defense. It had been a confession of something else entirely. A man protecting her from a danger she didn't even know she was standing next to. She checked the last known address her team had on him. The unfinished building. She was in the car in 4 minutes. He was there, sitting against a concrete pillar with Dallas asleep on his chest and Renley curled into his side. Exactly where she'd found him 3 weeks ago, like the last month had been a dream someone woke him from too early. A single flashlight sat on the ground beside him, its battery dying, throwing a weak orange circle over 3 worn blankets he must have grabbed from somewhere on the way out. He looked up when her headlights hit the concrete. He didn't stand. He looked like a man who'd stopped expecting good things to walk toward him in the dark. "Bianca, I was wrong," she said, and her voice didn't shake this time. It just broke open clean. "It's not you. It's her. It was never you." He didn't say "I told you so." He didn't say anything for a moment. Just looked at her standing in the dirt in her work clothes at 2 in the morning, and something in his face let go of a weight he'd been carrying since the day his card got declined. Renley stirred against his side, blinking up at the headlights. "Are we going back to the castle house?" Maddox's throat worked before he could answer her. "I need you to know something," Bianca said. "I've spent 18 months making sure nobody could ever get close enough to hurt me like that again. And the first time I let someone in, I panicked and threw him out the second it looked familiar. That's not fair to you. That was never about you. You had every reason not to trust me. I had every reason, and I was still wrong." She crouched down in the dirt, the way she had the very first night, level with him instead of above him. "Come home. Not because you need somewhere to sleep. Because I don't want the house quiet again." He came home. Not that night. That night he needed to just breathe. And she let him, sitting beside him on the cold concrete floor until the sun came up, saying nothing, just being there the way he'd once stood on her terrace without demanding she explain her tears. But 3 days later, once Peyton and her partner were somewhere the police were very interested in, Maddox knocked on Bianca's door with both kids and 1 duffel bag, and she opened it before he finished knocking. 6 months later, the house didn't echo anymore. It hadn't since the night a baby cried in the formula aisle and a stranger decided, for the first time in years, to stop protecting her heart and start using it. Renley had her own room now, painted the exact shade of purple she'd picked out herself, with a shelf full of picture books instead of a step stool made from scrap wood. Dallas had learned to crawl across a marble floor that used to be too quiet for anything to move on. And Maddox had stopped calling it her house. He just called it home, the same as everyone else did. Bianca used to believe that love was just a more expensive way to get robbed. She'd been robbed once. Then she almost let fear rob her again, of the one thing that had ever been real. The formula cost $34. What it bought her was priceless, and nearly cost her everything to keep.